Hey there, welcome to the video. My name's David. Today we're going to be talking about my carnivore journey to Scotland. So I was looking all over the place before I went on this trip to see if I could find a video that would tell me about the kind of food I'm going to be eating in Scotland, or how am I going to eat in Scotland, or whatever. I thought maybe I'd find some other Carnivore Scotland travel videos, but I didn't. So hopefully this video can kind of give you a bit of some insight to what kind of things you're going to come across, and the fact that you're going to have to eat and dine out for every meal. So good luck with that. Unless you are staying at like an Airbnb and you go grocery shopping and you are cooking at your Airbnb. For me, we were on the road every single day and everything was dining out. And if we were dining in, we were dining in at the hotel restaurant. So hopefully this video is able to share some of that with you. So let's get going on that. That's right, I took a 10-day trip to Scotland from America. We went there to see a family castle and tour the country and just have a good time. It was my first time actually going out of the US to visit another country, except for my deployments. Well, during this 10-day trip, we were on the road and we were trying to find ways to eat. Everybody else was fine. Me, carnivore, trying to find my way around things and eating out literally eating out every day. You could see there was a challenge. So in this video, I'm going to share some tips that I was able to utilize while traveling, and then also I'm going to just share some of the struggles and some of the imagery that I came across while I was there. To start off, I just want to say I had an awesome time. It was a trip of a lifetime, and the people there were really nice. The views and sights were amazing, and we'll get to talking about the trip. But first things first was just getting to the airport. Getting to the airport was normal, driving around America time. We got up early in the morning, got on our way over to the airport. Had plenty of water and coffee. As you may know, that I drink coffee. If you've traveled before, then you're probably familiar with airport food. There's restaurants there at the airport, but depending on the hour that you're at the airport, different restaurants will be open. And eating out is a struggle in general because most of the time the menu is set as it is and you have to order very specific or custom orders. And if they're willing to do it, you may end up spending more money. In this case, I tended not to eat very much while we were actually flying or in the airports. Everything was so expensive and stuff. I pretty much stuck to coffee and water. And once we finally boarded the plane, we got on our way, they served meals. And you can see a picture of one of my meals here. It was a bunch of stuff. Pretty much the only thing that I could eat from that meal was chicken, even though it was barbecue chicken. The sauce wasn't all that serious, so I didn't worry about the sauce too much. I let myself be a little bit liberal with the diet and allow that when I normally wouldn't. And there was some butter, and so if I was really hungry and stuff, I could eat just some straight up butter, but I wasn't hungry, so I kept that butter on the side for later. When they served breakfast, there wasn't anything I could eat. It was like pastries and Danish, and I wasn't starving because, you know, on carnivore, you don't really feel that way, but I was feeling like eating something. I didn't know when the next time we would eat was, so I decided to dig into my snacks, which is tip number one. I packed quite a few chomp sticks. I think I'm saying that right. It's like really nice beef sticks, like Slim Jims, but like much better quality of meat. Actually, I'll link to where you can find some beef sticks. Usually you can get them at Walmart or something like that. That's where I get them. But you can also order them off Amazon. And these chomp meat sticks, they're not super substantial, so you have to eat a few of them in order to feel it. And I ate like 3 or 4, just enough to satisfy me to get to the next place where I will have the opportunity to eat. Throughout the rest of the traveling, we had some layovers, and I got more coffee. That was about it. Coffee is great because, well, if you allow yourself to have coffee on the carnivore diet, then it's an appetite suppressant. And that's what I was thankful for, because I could drink and not be so hungry. We left Thursday morning and then got to our hotel in Scotland, where I was finally able to get some food at about 11 o'clock in the morning on the next day, Friday. Now they are about 5 hours ahead of us. So in Florida, where I'm at, it was more about 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was a long day. Everybody was pretty tired, but we had to stay up all day to get onto the track for sleeping at a normal rhythm in Scotland. When we got to the hotel, they had already closed down all of their breakfast. And so we had to order things through the menu, and they had breakfast available, and they did a really good job with their breakfast. The bacon there is a little bit different. It's almost like Canadian bacon with a little piece of American bacon all kind of put together. They don't make it as crispy as we do, but it was pretty good. Here's a picture. Their fried eggs, it's like they made them perfect. So I was very happy. And my brother-in-law even had some extra food, and I got some leftovers of his. Breakfast is one of my favorite carnivore meals because there's so many things to eat, and yeah, you can fill yourself up pretty good. And on the trip, essentially it was the key meal for the day, because every morning there was a hotel breakfast, and they had a buffet of breakfast foods, and fried eggs or scrambled eggs was always there, bacon was always there, and it was unlimited. So that was a lifesaver for sure. Now, when we got to country, we actually were a part of a large group of about 30 to 40 people. And we were actually, we had a tour guide or a tour director. And then as we went to different parts of the country, we had a guide that was maybe for that specific city or for that specific ride that we were on. Well, that very first night, we went out to eat as a large group. And our tour director was with us. And we had already placed orders on the menu, so there was no customizing the order or anything. So when they brought out the different foods, some people got chicken, beef, and fish, and that was pretty much it. Well, I got when we went, and there was no customizing the meal. It was either pork, beef, or chicken, or fish. I forget which one it was, but I ended up getting the pork. I did not know that it was going to be covered with sauce. I scraped some of the sauce off and I ate, but it was just not that, it was not big enough. So I did what I could. And then when we left that restaurant, which was great, it was a great restaurant, everybody really enjoyed it. Actually, before we left, I had what they called a dessert. They had an options for dessert, and one of the options was cheese and crackers. So I said, you know what? I'm in Scotland, we're on a vacation for the family. I'm gonna have some dessert, and I had cheese and crackers. I didn't eat the crackers, I just ate the cheese. And I'll tell you what, it was a really good chunk of cheese. Well, I'll tell you what, I was still hungry, so I decided to stop at the hotel and get some hamburger patties. And when the hamburger patties came out, me and my son were sitting there eating those hamburger patties, and we got to talking and feeling like the hamburger patties taste a little odd, like maybe there's onions in them or something. We weren't really sure, so I asked the waitress if she knew anything about it. She said no, but she would check with the chef. Surprising, the hotel had a chef. I wasn't expecting that. But I guess that makes sense when they're cooking, you know, full menus, eggs, and all that stuff like that. So when the waitress came back after talking with the chef, they said, no, there's nothing in it. It is pure Angus beef. And correct me if I'm wrong, I guess Scotland is kind of known for Angus beef. It's like their thing. So I guess that's good. It's like pure Angus beef. Now, it may have been also something I wasn't used to, is having a much leaner cut of ground beef. So that may be what was also a little bit different than what I'm used to, because I'm used to it being a bit more, not as dense. It seemed very dense, but it also just had like a little bit of a different taste. And so, but I got full. So that was good. That was the best part of it, is I finally got full and I was able to go get some rest for the night, which thankfully, because we had left Thursday morning, this was now Friday night, I was ready for some sleep. Cool little bit of tidbit information is during this time of the year, it doesn't actually get dark in Scotland until after 10 o'clock or around 10 o'clock. That's when the sunset is. And then the sunrise is at like 4:30. So there's not very many hours of darkness, which here in Florida, the sun goes down at about 8:30 and it doesn't come back up until 8 o'clock in the morning, or close to 8 o'clock in the morning. But then on the second day, breakfast, like I said, I had fried eggs, tons of bacon. I did actually sneak in a little bit of Greek yogurt just to see how it would go, and I enjoyed it. It was a little bit sweet to me. And I'll tell you another thing. I noticed they don't have a lot of ice that they serve, but they do have plenty. They have plenty of water, but the water they only give you like glasses like this big, so you had to keep going back to refill your water. It was a little bit different, because I'm used to here in America we get like big glasses full of ice, super cold all the time. So definitely a different experience. So that day I didn't have lunch, but we did go to a place called the Butterfly and the Pig, which was a pub that we were just wandering around looking for a pub to eat at, and found out it was a pretty nice place to eat. I ordered an appetizer for pork belly, and when it came out, it looked delicious. I was disappointed a little bit, not because they didn't make it very good, but because there was syrup on the pork belly. I decided I'm on vacation, I'll go through with it, and I'll just kind of scrape the syrup off of it. The maple syrup did add an extra bit of flavor to it. Obviously, it was delicious, but I regretted eating it, but it was so daggum delicious, I got through with it. And then I had a steak with no sides. So yeah, you'll find as I go through these different meals that I share that I sometimes it was a perfect carnivore meal. Other times I had to make do with what we had, and I had to break some rules here and there. Actually, at the end of the whole trip, I decided to let loose a little bit, and I'll share some of that with you when we get there. But so the second day I got filled. Next day it's time to move. Actually, I think I did after we left that restaurant, after I had the steak and the pork belly. I think I did end up getting another hamburger patty at the hotel, but not very much because that was a much more satisfying dinner than the night before. Day 3, we got up, same thing, breakfast, nice eggs, bacon, a little bit of Greek yogurt, and on our way. And you know me, I like my coffee, so I had coffee for the road. That day we stopped at a couple of places. We for some sightseeing and a tour around the Inverary Castle. So I'll share some of that imagery here. After we left the Inverary Castle, we went into the town of Inverary. We got to have lunch there, and we actually went to the Inverary Inn, and that's where they had a dining area there, and I had this hamburger patty. So I did focus mostly on beef and hamburger patties and trying to stay as clean as possible. And this was one of those scenarios where I was able to. And also, I didn't mention it before, but each place we went, oftentimes my wife would get a beer or some sort of a drink, and I would have a sip of it. Nothing against drinking. I'm not big on drinking often, but being there, experiencing something for the first time and maybe the last time I experienced it, I was willing to just kind of enjoy the time. So not a requirement though, it was just what we did. And really my drinking was mostly just a sip of the beer, taste it, and then handed it back to her. Also, they do have some pretty quality cows there. I don't remember exactly what they called this cow, but it's fun to look at because it's got the long hair and all. So thought I'd post that up there. Again, we stopped and did all kinds of things. We saw all kinds of cool landscapes and monuments and stuff. And then when we finally got to our destination, we were at the Loch Nessie, the Loch Ness Lodge, right next to Nessie Land. So that was a cool trip. And we were at this lodge was really kind of homey when we got there. It was a bit different than the first hotel that we were at because it seemed a bit more warm and traditional and nostalgic, I should say. The internet wasn't so good there. There was one room where the internet worked okay, but when you went to your room to sleep, there was none. So we had to make do. But that night, which again, I think it was the 3rd day of the trip, I was able to get, I actually was able to convince the lady at the hotel that was serving us to give me extra salmon since I didn't want any of the sides. I didn't want any dessert. I didn't want the, because they did like a 3-course meal. I didn't want the appetizer or anything. So they did give me extra salmon. So you can talk to people about that. They do look at you a little weird when you say, I don't want any vegetables or any sides or nothing like that. All I want is the meat. And they're like, huh? I mean, they speak English. It's normal language there. They understand what I'm saying. It's just not common. They're not used to that. They're just not experienced. I get way less looks here in America about just wanting meat and no sides than I did while I was on this trip in Scotland. It was like completely foreign to them, the idea. So the Loch Ness Lodge, no different than the other hotel that we were at before in Glasgow. It had a great breakfast, lots of fried eggs, lots of bacon, and a little bit of Greek yogurt. I didn't have Greek yogurt every morning, but they had it there as well. So they also had some sausages. I did not get into the, what was it, black pudding or blood sausage? I forget what they called it, but it was like real dark, and I think it had something to do with blood. I didn't mess around with that. But they did have some sausage. I ate some sausage here and there, and bacon and eggs again. And I filled up because I knew that throughout the day I might not eat as much. So yeah. The first full day there, we went and actually did a trip looking for the Loch Ness Monster. But for dinner that night, we ate at the hotel and I got to try some venison. So I don't think I can recall in my life before that I've ever eaten venison. So I had venison just for the experience. It wasn't a lot of meat. I shared a little bit with the rest of the family, but afterwards I was still hungry. So just maybe a block down the road, they had a restaurant or a pub, and they had what's called takeaway. So I was able to get some hamburger patties, and again, that look that people were like, you just want the patties, you don't want the buns, the cheese, nothing like that. I was like, no, just the patties. And they hooked me up. It was delicious. It's a little pub called Fiddler's, and they actually have a really cool menu. They got lots of good stuff there. And if you're over there around Loch Ness, I recommend you go try it out. I did see on the menu where they had like this 3-course meal where with every course, the appetizer, the main meal, and the dessert, that you would also get a glass of scotch that's paired with it, kind of like we do wine pairings. That they would do a scotch pairing. So definitely, if you're over there, try that out. We don't have to go through day by day everything I did. I just want to share with you that we went through a 10-day trip, and I stopped along the way and got some different foods. So one restaurant that we stopped at while we were in the Isles of Skye, I was able to get just the hamburger patties and some bacon, and they actually had bacon that was a little bit more like what I'm used to in America, except it was like really wide cut. So I got a picture of that here. And that day that we were out and about, we got to see some really pretty sights, waterfalls, all kinds of things. I have to say that the Highlands are a very pretty place in the world. So if you never get the chance, you got to go. Like I mentioned earlier, we went for our whole family. It was me, my wife, kids, aunt, uncle-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law. I can't remember if there was anybody else, but it was like a team of 8 of us that went to make up this 35 person group. I think it was 35. It was between 35 and 40 people. And our whole goal, our whole reason for going was because my father-in-law, his parents wanted to take him to Scotland to see this family castle. The last name McRae is, I guess, the caretakers for this castle, and Island Donan is the name of the castle. And they wanted to go. They wanted to take their kids to see the castle. They never did get to take them. My father-in-law had been telling my wife whenever they were kids that they were going to go, but they never did. And just a year ago, we decided, let's do it. We'll all go. We'll take the kids. And we decided between 2 different trips. Either we get like an Airbnb next to the castle, or we just book this trip that's going to take us all around the country. We ended up doing the one that's going to take us all around the country. We stayed at each place for like 3 days, and we had a different tour, a different trip every day. Well, on this day, which I believe was like the 4th or 5th day that we were there, we actually went to the Island Donan Castle, or Eland Donan. I always have a hard time knowing how to pronounce it, but it was a beautiful castle. We got a special tour. We all had like these special T-shirts, the McRae clan T-shirts, just to kind of stand out and let the staff know that we were there to represent. They gave us a little bit of a behind-the-scenes tour. I don't know if anybody would get in trouble, so I'm not going to mention any names, but they really hooked us up. It made the trip worth it, and it was just phenomenal. Our last night at Loch Ness, we went to that Fiddler's Restaurant pub. I did not actually want to eat there. I wanted to get hamburger patties from the little takeaway bar that they had. But they wouldn't let me bring that into the restaurant. This isn't like a big hit on them. This is how they run their business, but it's a small town meant for tourists and stuff, so they got a way that they run their restaurant. But just be prepared for scenarios like this, where when you go in and you want to order something in a very specific way, I asked them, hey, I know I could get hamburger patties out there, the takeaway, but you don't have it on the menu here. Can I get that? And they said no. And I said, well, can I get it over there and then bring it in here? And they said, no, you have to order what's on the menu. And so the only things on the menu were higher priced things, especially because we're talking in pounds, and a pound is like $1.30 in comparison to 1 pound. So I decided to myself, I could order this steak. It's only a 10-ounce steak, and it comes with all the sides, but I don't want the sides. And a 10-ounce steak is just not going to be enough for me, and I don't want to spend all that money just for that 10-ounce steak. So tonight, I'm not going to eat. So I had some tea while I watched the family eat all their meals. I tried some of their meals. They gave me some bites here and there, but for the most part, I didn't eat anything. And then we got back to the room. Remember, I had those chopsticks, like the really healthy Slim Jims. So I ate a few of those before I went to bed, and that satisfied me until breakfast the next day. I actually thought I was going to wait until everybody was done eating, and then I would go to the takeaway spot to get some hamburger patties to take back to the room. But they closed before we were done with our dinner, so bummer. Once we were done with all of our tours around the Highlands and Loch Ness area, we made our way down to Edinburgh. On our way to Edinburgh, we stopped at the Blair Castle. We got a tour of that. Beautiful. We got to hear some bagpipes. And then we stopped at the Glenturret Distillery. Now, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Glenturret brand of whiskey, Scotch that is, but apparently there's like the only one left in Scotland that still does Scotch by hand or something. I forget exactly what the terminology they used, but we got the full tour. We got to see from the beginning to the end of how they do everything. It was awesome to see, and then at the end we had a tasting, and I wasn't going to go to a Scotch distillery, get all the story behind it, and not have any Scotch. So I had a glass. It was nice. I would not continue drinking Scotch a lot. It burns, and it's just not necessarily my thing. But when in Scotland, you have to kind of try it out. But I really appreciate those people and all the work they're doing to keep a tradition alive. Yeah. Now, when we finally got to Edinburgh, this was the very first hotel that we got to that had scrambled eggs at breakfast. It was the 4 Points by Sheridan, and it was a nice hotel. And one thing we noticed on the first night of getting to Scotland is that there's not a lot of places that have air conditioning, and the hotels are an example of places that don't have. There may be hotels that had air conditioning, but not these hotels. Now, I do have to say that they had a heat wave coming through, and the temperature was like 70 degrees. So I guess it doesn't get hot there very often. For us in Florida, that's the temperature we're trying to keep our house at, is around 71 when we're trying to sleep, 72, 73, something like that. And during the day, mid 70s. So outside it was nice, but for some reason inside it did not stay so nice. But we had to open the windows. And so that's where what we did every place we stayed at. It was just open the window, try to stay cool. Now, up in the Highlands, it was a bit chillier than when we were in Edinburgh or in Glasgow. So then at night, the room would get a little, not warm, just warmer than what we would have preferred. So we ended up sleeping not under the blankets the whole time, or most of the night. So anyways, I'm getting on a tangent, but that's just my experience in Scotland. If you ever go and you're used to more hot weather, be ready for the cold while you're there. But also, if you're used to air conditioning, be ready to not have air conditioning. While in Edinburgh, we had a day where we went to the Edinburgh Castle. It was huge, massive, beautiful castle, which was like the third or fourth castle we went to while we were in Scotland, and it was great. It was majestic. This was the one that had Robert the Bruce's statue on it, along with William Wallace's. And I'll tell you what, William Wallace in the statue wears different clothes than Mel Gibson did in Braveheart. So I don't know how accurate Braveheart was to history, but the castle has got to have it right, I think, maybe. I don't know. Our last night in Loch Ness, we went to so the day after we were done with Edinburgh Castle, we ended up going to a restaurant called the Indigo Yard, which is, it was a recommendation from Ruben, who was our tour director. We like to ask him for recommendations on places to go, and he really knew his stuff, because when we got to this place, they had some amazing food. I didn't take a picture of it, but I did get an appetizer. It was lamb meatballs, and they were delicious. I don't regularly like lamb. I've tried like lamb chops here and there, especially since I've been on carnivore diet, and the lamb chops just, I guess because of the way they season them or something, they just never are as good to me as just eating ground beef or something like that. But these lamb meatballs, I don't know what they did to them, but they taste amazing. I'm sure there was something in the meatballs I shouldn't have had, but they were good, and we were on vacation, so I wasn't gonna worry about it that much. But it was good. Now, what I did take a picture of was the steak that I got. It was actually, they had two different steaks I could choose from. One was a thicker steak, and one was a little bit of a thinner steak. But the thinner steak, there was a lot more to it. I don't remember what kind of meat it actually was or what they called it, but it was supposed to, I think that I was supposed to pour this gravy over it, but I didn't. I just ate it plain with some salt. It wasn't like an amazing steak. I think that was the point of the gravy, but it was good enough to satisfy my hunger, and it was meat. So that's all I really cared about. So that day finished up strong. Our last day in Scotland was kind of a free day for us. We spent the morning, we got up leisurely, had coffee and breakfast at the hotel. Again, this hotel, lots of scrambled eggs and bacon. It was a delicious meal. But then later in the day, or after breakfast and everything, we went for a long walk, and we got back around lunchtime. But the family stopped at Taco Bell. I didn't want any Taco Bell. I don't know why we were stopping at Taco Bell. I guess the kids wanted it. Plus, we had stopped at a couple places at Starbucks, and we were just walking around a lot, and they just wanted something familiar. But I went back to the hotel and I ordered Five Guys, because I stopped at a McDonald's actually while we were coming back to get hamburger patties, but they didn't want to give me hamburger patties unless I ordered the burgers. So in order for me to get a quarter-pound patty, I would have to order a quarter-pound burger. Now here in America, they don't make me do that. Usually I can just get a la carte 7 hamburger patties, quarter-pound patties, and then they'll just give it to me in a little like dish where they do their big breakfast kind of plastic dish. But they wouldn't let me do that in Scotland. I had to order 4, 5, 6 burgers. It was going to be $40 plus. So I decided against it. Ordering Five Guys, or it wasn't DoorDash, Uber Eats, delivered to the hotel was still fairly expensive for eating fast food. Ended up being, what I did is I got a double bacon cheeseburger, or double bacon burger with 2 extra patties in a bowl. So I ended up getting 4 beef patties, 2 pieces of bacon in a bowl, and it turned out to be $20. So that is still expensive. And when I say $20, I think it was more like 20 pounds. So it would have been like it ended up being $20. So it's still expensive. And when you eat this way and you're eating out. Now, if you're eating at home and you're just making dinner and stuff for yourself, it's not as this expensive at all. But the fact that we were out, and then also the fact that everything there was kind of priced like you would normally see in an American restaurant, like a steak would be like $30. Unless we were at a really fancy place, it might be like $35, $40. And when I say dollars, I mean pounds. So then you had to convert that to American dollars, which for every $1 would be $1.29. So whatever, if it was $40, it's probably more like 50. Those 40 pounds are probably more like 50, a little bit more than $50. So most of the time, it was more expensive than if you were to eat out here in America. But that's just because we're used to dollars. And every time I saw the pound, I didn't think pounds, I thought dollars. But then when it came and I looked at the receipt, it was a bit surprising. So back to my original point was, I ended up getting Five Guys, which is great. I'm used to Five Guys, and that's an easy, quick meal. All right, so that day that we had like the whole day, and then we had the breakfast, and then I had the Five Guys, but then we did have one last thing. It was our going away farewell party thing that we were doing, and we ended up going to this golf course, and we had another three-course meal that we had to, preemptively order. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm gonna let myself just have whatever they have on the menu, and I'll eat whatever they send out. I'm not gonna be picky about it. It'll be like a cheat meal or treat for myself, since I was, we're finishing up this Scotland trip. We'll go out with a bang. Well, I have to tell you, the haggis. I don't know if you ever heard of haggis. When you go to Scotland, if you're not from Scotland, you may have heard of an animal called a haggis, and they'll describe it to you in different ways, where there's like 3 legs, and it's got 3 different kinds of hair and all kinds of stuff. It's like a little creature, like yay big. Well, some of the restaurants we went to, they had haggis. I didn't get it, but on the menu it said it was shot locally, and I was like, wow. I Google searched it. I'm not sure what haggis is, but I've never seen it. So when I looked at it up on Google, it is not actually a real animal. It's just like a mixture, mainly of organs cooked inside of a stomach. So it's like I think it was goat organs or something, and that's like cooked inside of the stomach. So I got it as the appetizer, and it was delicious. Now I do think that they might have like fried it or something of some sort, because the outside was a little bit had a little bit of a crisp to it, and they had it on sitting on top of applesauce. I thought it was delicious, and I wish I could have haggis again. But I don't know where I could find haggis here in America, or at least here in Central Florida. But I ate all of the haggis that was on my plate. Don't get it twisted. The next part of the meal, I got the beef roast. It came with a big chunk of roast beef, or beef roast or whatever, and some mashed potatoes. I ate the beef. I started eating the mashed potatoes, and I was like, no, I'm really not feeling this. It's not like delicious or anything, so I'm just gonna not eat it. I had like 2 or 3 bites of it. It wasn't really worth it to me. It didn't taste that good. I don't know why, because I've had mashed potatoes before in the past and I loved it, but I guess either I was feeling some sort of guilt, or it just, my palate just wasn't craving that anymore, so I didn't eat it. I forgot to take a picture of the dessert. They ended up having some different fruity type desserts, and it was like strawberries and cream, so that was about the extent of my dessert. It was pretty good. I didn't finish it because, again, I got that guilty feeling, but I did have a taste of it. And that night was actually a really fun night. We got to learn how to play bagpipe a little bit. We had like a lady, she was like the bagpiper for the Queen, and she'd been bagpiping for like 45 years. It was really fun. My son got to get up and be the band director or something like that. It was kind of fun. So that was the last full day. Now we move on to our travel back. The travel back was very similar to the travel there. We got up in the morning, we had breakfast, again, scrambled eggs and so on and so forth. We get to the airport. I got some coffee. That was about the extent for myself. The food that they served on the plane was not anything I wanted to eat. Luckily, I had some beef sticks still left from the chomp sticks. And chomp sticks were like the thing for me. Pretty much it was just a straight through flight on Virgin Atlantic. And so we went straight from Edinburgh all the way through to Orlando, Florida. And we got back to Orlando. We stopped at McDonald's and got some hamburger patties and drove home. So pretty simple trip back home but it was a 9-hour flight where I didn't eat anything. So take that for what it's worth. So if you want to pack yourself some extra snacks for the flight and stuff, I would. Overall, it was an amazing trip. It's so cool. So I want to hear from you guys. If you were planning to go to Scotland or somewhere in the UK or something, I want to hear about it. 2 things real quick before we sign off. One, I just want to remind you that there is a giveaway still happening for a free air fryer. You can find that link to the giveaway in the description. Also, I want to recommend another video for you guys to watch after this, and it is one of the biggest problems I faced when I first started carnivore, and you can find that video right here. Good luck, and I look forward to hearing all about your travels and your carnivore diet here in the coming comments. I'll talk to you soon.